tomato plant getting its best angle there. Okay, all right, okay. Now here's my question for you. All right, you got a few minutes here. Here's my question. All right, I have here somewhere, yeah. I have here my burpee tomato seeds. So here's my question. What are the variables between this, a seed, and this nice little ripe tomato ready to pick off and eat? What are some of the things that have to happen between this and that? Death. Well, one is death. The seed has to be put in the ground, and Jesus talks about that all the time. There's a sense of you're going to have to die before you have life. But let's some of y'all let's not make all the spiritual connections yet. The seed is going to have to be planted in the soil. All right, so that's it has to get out of the package and get put in the soil.
Water.
All right, there's going to have to be watering, and it looks like you could use a little bit. I apologize. And then there's sun. You can't grow these in your basement. Some plants will, but this won't grow without any sun. Okay.
Protected from the varmints.
Are you graduated from the varmints? Yes, okay, yes. And so don't let your children eat near these. I know Mom and Marv know this. I mean, they have this great garden that gets eaten up by their feeding half of Eastern Jefferson County's animals. But you have to protect it. They have to be protected from things that would. So it has to plant, it has to water. The soil has to be. We put a spade in here. I think it's mostly for looks. I'm not sure, but you have to work the soil a little bit and stuff. You have to pull the weeds that are around it. There's stuff that goes into this. Yes. Time. It's funny. Sometimes you'll see, like, I don't know if there's ever one for tomatoes, but you can grow tomatoes in 2 weeks and stuff like that. There's always people always want to sell you on the quicker way. It takes time. You plant it, and I don't know, when do you plant your tomato plants? May?
Yeah.
And actually, many of y'all started the plants in your basement before that, and now, here we are in August, and it just takes time. It just takes time.
It needs something to give direction.
Yeah, the tomato plant needs some of our best work in it right here and stuff. So I say all this to say this is a little bit of a picture of the Christian life. And what's interesting to me about Jesus here, also, if you on Saturday morning, my little handout, I said this is the Fred Wishy, what is that called? It's the Gospel according to Fred Wishy. Fred Wishy, I mean, if you're from Louisville, you know Fred Wishy. He was the garden guy. There's nothing on this handout. Many of y'all just not seeing it like, what the heck is that? But Fred Wishy was the garden expert, and he would tell you how to get good results. Well, I think Jesus is our Christian life expert. And what's interesting to me, tell me, why is it so significant that when he sees Simon, he gives him a name? When he sees Nathaniel, he talks about what he knows about him. Why does he do something different with every guy? Every guy is different. And I got to tell you, you are all different. And your story of how you went from being a seed to being a plant, to maybe even producing fruit, is a story all your own in Jesus. I mean, and your story is significant, and it's your own story. And what strikes me about Jesus as we look through the Gospels, he doesn't have, well, this is what I do with guys. And I go boom, 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 boom. No, he goes, you know what? You're going to be a rock. You know what I like about you? There is nothing false about you. It gets you in trouble sometimes. You say stuff you shouldn't about me, but whatever. But he's meeting each guy where he's at, and he's producing. I'm going to work with you to get you to where you are going to produce fruit. And we've all got a story. So here's our apprenticeship activity for this week. I want you you got a little half sheet of paper. I want you to think about, when was the seed planted in my life? When was it planted? So you're going to kind of do your own little story. When was it planted? Matter of fact, some of y'all, the soil had to be worked before the seed was ever planted. So who worked the soil? What happened? The seed was planted. You might think about, when you first sprouted out, that when you start beginning to grow, and some of y'all have gone through seasons of drought where the plant got kind of weak. Some of it's been a fairly short story. Some of you, your story is decades long. But I think it's a great exercise to think through your story of going from a seed to a plant. You might think about times in your life, boy, I was really producing fruit back then. But you know what? It's been pretty dry right now, or whatever. You just go through your story. But it's not just your story. It's the story of how God has been working in your life to get you to this point. And here's the deal right now. Remember last week's lesson that Satan will come along and tell you that your story's not good enough, not important enough, it hasn't worked out the way it should. I say, if you're sitting here this morning, it's worked out the way it should. Because God has got you to this place of you're seeking after Him. In a sense, the other thing you can do is answer this question. If He were to turn and look at you and say, what do you want? What are you seeking? Wrestle with that one a little bit as well. But I encourage you to think through your own story, how God has worked in your life. And I think in doing that, you'll find out, well, maybe He's done a little bit more than you realize. It's a neat story as we read through this, as we see this, as we see that He's realizing, you know what, I didn't take a shortcut to being Messiah, and actually, it's going to take a while, but I'm going to invest in these guys as we go along. And that's what it's going to look like. And now, 2,000 years later, He comes along and says, you know what, I'm going to invest in you, I'm going to invest in you, I'm going to invest in every one of you, and you've got your own story. And He says, I will walk with you in that story. Okay, let's close.